So here's why buying where you live can sometimes cost you. I'm from Sydney originally. I was born and raised in Sydney, and I left Sydney in 2017 to move up to Brisbane. Around 2012, Sydney really experienced a lot of growth. Properties that were selling for $650,000 were selling for $1.4 million about 2 years later. It was crazy what happened with the Sydney market. A lot of people had the thought process that just they've missed the boat, basically, that they're not going to be able to enter the property market. They're not going to be able to buy anything. And I had a different perspective. I thought, well, if Sydney's already blown up and shortly after Melbourne blew up, then in that case, Brisbane is probably going to be a good market to look at. And so I started looking at the fundamentals of Brisbane. It had very good depth of labor market. The vacancy rates were pretty low. There's a lot of owner occupiers across the market. There was no reason why, if Sydney's blown up, then Melbourne's blown up, that Brisbane wouldn't be next. It's the third biggest city, enough population moving there. The vacancy rates are quite low and there's a good depth of labor market. And so I started buying properties in Brisbane. Now, at the time, you could buy a property for about $450,000. You could buy a nice house in Brisbane. And so I bought a couple of those. Now, at the time, my Sydney friends had similar borrowing capacities, and they ended up buying a one-bedroom apartment in Sydney. They were selling for about $550,000 or so, purely because that's what they could afford. We did some pretty humble borrowing capacities. And so I decided to go a house in Brisbane. They went a one-bedroom apartment in Sydney. And now we look at the prices of those properties. They bought in areas that were high density population. Some of their properties are still only worth about $600,000. Now, the houses that I bought for $450,000, they're now well over $1 million. Now, it just shows that you don't always need to buy in your own backyard, especially if what you can buy in your own backyard is just a one-bedroom apartment. If all you can be buying and your goal is to be buying it for a certain price and then selling it for a higher price in the future, I'd probably be looking outside of where you live to focus more on buying land, houses, 322 townhouse with a courtyard, things like that. Houses with land, that's what's going to help you build the capital growth long into the future.